From the cold weather mistakes you dare not commit to the dangers of dining with Mother Nature, today we look at survival myths that could end you. Number 12. Bare necessity. From comics to cartoons and plenty of live-action films, the common defense taught through media when encountering a bear couldn't be more wrong. While the advertising technique of impersonating a corpse might work in the very specific situation of running across a mother grizzly bear tending to her cubs, it will most likely fail in other situations. Hungry, predatory bears will not be fooled by your ruse, and it's recommended you fight back against any that approach you, especially when faced with a black bear. Number 11. Rubbing frostbite. This past winter was one of the coldest in decades, and people across the world ran the risk of frostbite in the harsh, chilly months. Natural instinct would provoke most to turn to friction in such an emergency, relying on the time-tested method of rubbing one's hands or toes together to beat the cold. However, when it comes to frostbite, this could be the worst possible choice. Friction can cause tissue damage on the affected areas due to the embedded ice crystals being forced to scrape against highly fragile cells. This damage can be double if done while still out in the cold as well, given the likelihood for the frostbitten areas to refreeze at a later time. Therefore, it is recommended you seek out shelter from the elements and medical attention as soon as possible to deal with frostbite. Number 10. Misleading moss. Pop culture has told us that seeking the correct direction is as easy as examining moss on a tree trunk. Whichever side the moss grows on is north, right? Well, not quite, contrary to what your favorite survival flick might say. In truth, moss grows in accordance with moisture and sunlight. The slope of the surface it grows on also plays a role. Being able to decipher the difference in these factors will help you determine which direction the moss is actually growing on. Over time, especially thanks to a widespread media portrayals, this process has been diluted down to a neat nature hack of sorts in the minds of many. The reality is that it requires much more knowledge of nature and ecosystems to be able to navigate home using this method. Number 9. Hypothermic misconceptions. Extreme cold can easily cause hypothermia, but treating someone who's experienced such sharp drops in temperature can be much more difficult. Some common treatment recommendations seem sound. In practice, though, things like letting someone with hypothermia sleep or rest in a hot tub to warm up can prove to have fatal consequences. Drowsiness in a hypothermia victim, for example, is usually a fairly serious symptom, as it typically comes on as the victim's body slows down. Hypothermic victims often pass away when allowed to sleep. On top of that, victims need to be gradually warmed. Being plopped directly into a hot tub can cause such intense pain that the shock of such can cause a heart attack. And whatever you do, don't feed a victim going into hypothermic shock, as they very well may choke or retch up the food. Instead, wait until their condition becomes a bit more moderate to supply high-calorie foods and fuel their body's ability to generate heat. Number 8. Nuts and berries. A common mistake to make when foraging for nutrients in the great outdoors is to base the safety of food on an animal's willingness to eat it. While forest mammals might help themselves to nuts, berries, or flowers that are also safe for human consumption, many animals have evolved to eat things we would consider toxic. Birds are especially heinous to mimic, as various species are known to munch on fruits that could end a human being's life. But even small mammals like squirrels can't be trusted, as they're known to eat mushrooms that would otherwise be poisonous to us. It's best to stick with the fruits, plants, and nuts you know. Number 7. Raw meat. Delicacies like steak tartare and sushi may taste delicious coming out of a 4-star kitchen, but raw meat is a whole other story when it comes to the wilderness. Animal flesh can transmit harmful pathogens that the human immune system may not be ready to handle, making subsequent symptoms difficult to diagnose. On top of that, parasites like worms and flukes can work their way from raw flesh into your system if not cooked thoroughly, resulting in unwanted guests draining your body of nutrients or worse. Despite what you might have seen Bear Grylls bite into, even fish pose a threat. Sushi is typically safe to consume only because the bacteria in some saltwater fish isn't compatible with human hosts. Regardless of what your diet normally consists of, always make sure to cook your food thoroughly before consuming. Number 6. Take cover. One type of shelter commonly taught is the lean-to. Valued for its simplicity and low material requirements, this rigging is a favorite among survival shows, right next to hammocks. But similar to the backyard lounge accessory, lean-tos don't have much use in terms of practical application. While they might give you some salvation from wind or sunlight, these structures have no defense against rain or snowfall. On top of that, they're not built to be insulatory, so keeping warm will rely on whatever fire you build or blankets you have on hand. And then there's the issue of wild animals, which will have free rein to raid you in your camp, since lean-tos are simply built to be out in the open. This style of shelter should be employed as a last resort, or in optimum conditions where all the above threats are non-existent, like being stranded on a desolate equatorial island. Number 5. Eating snow. If snow is just frozen water, then it must be a safe source of hydration in the open wilderness. At least that's the common thought process. But if you are looking to quench your thirst with a couple snowballs, you might end up biting off a bit more than you can chew. Snow falls in 4 different forms, all of which have much more cold air than frozen water in their composition, with a ratio of 9:1. So in order to fulfill the suggested 15 cups of water per day, you'd have to consume about 150 cups of snow. Consuming that much cold is guaranteed to send your body temperature spiraling downward, increasing your chances of suffering from hypothermia. It's recommended to always melt snow water before drinking. Number 4. Fire starter farce. There are many falsehoods surrounding fire and surviving in the wilderness. Perhaps the most popular is the process of rubbing 2 sticks together to start a fire. While friction can definitely create a flame, it's a much more arduous process than simply rubbing sticks, often requiring a lot of practice and patience to pull off. Other fire-based myths include the recommendation to build a fire inside of a cave or to build a large fire in place of a shelter. The former suggestion will cause rocks overhead to expand due to the newfound heat source, potentially causing a cave-in, while the latter suggestion is just plain ignorant of dangers like high winds or rainy weather and the dangers of sleeping in the open. Even the belief that matches can be used after they've dried is false. Rather than rely on tall tales, be sure to brush up on fire safety before heading out to camp. Number 3. Sucking venom. Hollywood has loved to employ the cut-and-suck technique for ages when using snake bites to drive the narrative of a scene. From westerns to comedies, this process has provided an excellent visual effect to convey the desperation felt following envenomization. Yet this concept has no true effectiveness in the real world. In fact, such a reaction can worsen the already dire situation. Once venom enters the body, it travels quickly and spreads, making the idea of actually sucking it all out an impossibility. To worsen matters further, slicing into an afflicted wound in haste and applying your own bacteria-laden saliva will most likely increase the chance of infection, spread the venom further, or cause excess bleeding. Instead, you should remain calm, avoid anything that would speed up the snake-bitten party's heart rate, and proceed directly to a hospital. Number 2. Liquor warmth. With the majority of ski resorts having a nice toasty lodge, most likely equipped with some sort of frothy alcoholic beverage on tap or season-appropriate peppermint liquor, it's typical to associate such libations with warming up. Even artwork and modern media have contributed to this concept, with the classic portrayal of a St. Bernard carrying a cask of brandy around its neck to revive those lost in the snow. This is little but fantasy though, as alcohol actually causes the opposite reaction. In addition to reducing the ability to shiver to combat the cold, alcohol also dilates capillaries just below the skin. This might feel warm in the moment as it brings more of your blood to the surface of your skin, but it also causes your blood to cool quicker and thus lower your body temperature swiftly. Sweat can form, creating a lower core temperature, and inebriation can keep you from realizing what's happening. So no matter how you look at it, alcoholic drinks are probably the worst cure for warming up in the snow. Number 1. You're in trouble. Desperate times call for desperate measures, but turning to your own waste for hydration is never a good idea. If you've reached that level of desperation, chances are you're already long dehydrated. This can prove even more harmful than drinking it when hydrated. In addition to carrying bacteria, toxins, and any medication you've taken, urine contains concentrated amounts of salts and minerals meant to exit the body. These minerals require water to process, and without it, you'd simply be speeding up your own dehydration.